Hello, dear students. Welcome again to our history class. Today we are going to do the last chapter, Paths to Modernization. This is the last chapter in your syllabus. So we are going to take a look at it, and from the pictures you can see we are going to study about Japan and China. Now, East Asia at the beginning of the 19th century was dominated by China. The Qing dynasty, that was an heir to a long tradition, seemed secure in its power. Japan, on the other hand, was a small island country and was locked in isolation. Yet, within a few decades, China had to face a lot of turmoil and it was unable to face the colonial challenge. The imperial government lost political control and it was unable to reform effectively, and country was facing civil war. On the other hand, Japan was successful in building a modern nation state. It was creating an industrial economy and also establishing a colonial empire by incorporating Taiwan and Korea. It also defeated China, the land that had been the source of its culture and ideals, in 1894, and also Russia and a European power in 1905. Now, take a look at this map to get the perspective clear. Now, this large area that you see in green is China, and to its right, you can see in purple Japan, which has 4 islands. It's an island country made up of 4 islands. We'll come to it subsequently, and then you can see North Korea and South Korea. To the right of Japan, you can see the Pacific Ocean, and between North Korea, South Korea, and Japan, you can see the Sea of Japan, which we will be referring during the course of our lesson. Now, talking about China, the Chinese reacted slowly and faced immense difficulties as they tried to redefine their traditions to cope with the modern world. And they also tried to rebuild their national strength and become free from Western and Japanese control. They found that they could achieve both these objectives of removing inequalities and also of rebuilding their country through revolution. The Chinese Communist Party emerged victorious from the civil war in the year 1949. However, by the end of 1970s, Chinese leaders felt that the ideological system was retarding economic growth and development. And all this led to wide changing reforms of the economy that brought back capitalism and free market, even as Communist Party retained its political control. About Japan, Japan had become an advanced industrial nation, but its drive for empire led to war, and it was defeated at the hands of the Anglo-American forces. The US occupation marked the beginning of a more democratic political system, and Japan rebuilt its economy to emerge by the 1970s as a major economic power. The Japanese path to modernization was built on capitalist principles and took place within a world dominated by Western colonialism. Japanese expansion was justified by the call to resist Western domination and liberate Asia. The rapid development underlined the strength of tradition in Japanese institutions, in society, their ability to learn, and the strength of nationalism. Now, this is the map of Japan, and you can see this island country. It is made up of 4 islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. China and Japan both had a long tradition of historical writings, as history was an important guide for the rulers. Because through this guide, they could study about the past and understand it, the standards by which they would be judged, and the rulers established official departments to maintain records and write the histories of various dynasties. One of the earliest acts of the Meiji government was to establish in the year 1869 a bureau to collect records and write, as it were, a victor's version of the Meiji Restoration. There was great respect for written word, and literary ability was highly valued in Japan and China. Printing and publishing were important industries. Now, these are the various sources through which we can study the scholarly works of, you can see here Sima Qian, the greatest historian of early China. Then you have Liang Qichao, Kume Kunatike, Joseph Needham, George Sansom, and Neitokkonen. Then we have travel accounts of Marco Polo, the Jesuit priest Matthew, Louis Froy. Then we have popular literature of that time, we have religious works, official records, official history, and the writings of Christian missionaries. Now, this is the picture that you see of Neito Konan. He was a leading Japanese scholar of China and he used new tools of Western historiography. Neito built on a long tradition of studying China. He helped establish the Department of Oriental Studies in Kyoto University in 1907. In 1914, he argued that the Republican government offered the Chinese a way to end aristocratic control and centralize power. He saw in Chinese history strengths that would make it modern as well as democratic. Japan, he thought, had an important role to play in China, but somehow he seemed to have underestimated the power of Chinese nationalism. Here we take a look at both China and Japan and try and compare them. As a country, China is a continental country, whereas Japan is a group of islands, as we saw in the map: Honshu, Kyushu, Shikoku, and Hokkaido. Then China has three major river systems: the Yellow River, the Yangtze River, and the Pearl River, whereas Japan does not really have any major river system. China is a mountainous region. Japan, 50% area in mountainous, active earthquake zone, so it's more prone to earthquakes very often. Then China has divergent ethnic groups, and some of them are the Han, the Uyghur, the Manchu, Tibetan, and the Hui. And Japanese ethnic group have a small Ainu minority and Koreans. The major language of China is Chinese, Cantonese, whereas Japan has its own Japanese language. Food habit, of course, we've heard many of these are common with us. Wheat was a major grain, then pastries or dumplings, dim sum, what we know as momo, commonly in our country. Of course, this is what we've learned from China. Rice is also a very important item of their food. We all talk of Chinese fried rice. Then Japan, of course, rice again is an important item. Wheat, fish, raw fish that is very popular, sushi, is again a delicacy of Japan. China, one of the very important means of livelihood of a large number of people is animal rearing, whereas Japan lacks a tradition of animal rearing. Now, these are different regions of China, and you know, different areas are famous for different food items. And you can see the southern China, that is Cantonese cuisine, dim sum, which actually means literally means touch your heart, and also it has an assortment of pastries and dumplings. Northern China, major grain there is wheat, so they make many products out of wheat. Then southwestern China, Szechuan again is a very common and popular cuisine, so which is of course full of spices and chilies, so it's hot in taste. Then eastern China has both rice and wheat, so basically food items are made of rice and wheat. The political system in Japan, the emperor was the head of the Japanese government till 12th century. Then Kyoto was the capital during the rule of the emperors. By 12th century, the imperial court lost power to the shoguns. These shoguns was a military dictator of Japan, and he ruled in the name of the emperor. From the year 1603 up till 1867, members of the Tokugawa family held the position of shogun. Then the daimyo, the country was divided into around 250 domains under the rule of lords who were given the title of daimyo. The shogun exercised power over the domainal lords, ordering them to stay at the capital Edo, and what is, of course, we know today as modern Tokyo, for long periods so that they would not pose a threat. Then samurai, something we've heard, the warrior class, they were the ruling elite and they served the shoguns and the daimyo. Three changes that laid the pattern of future development. First one is that the peasantry was disarmed and only the samurai could carry the swords. Then the daimyo were ordered to live in the capitals of their domains. Each had a large degree of autonomy. So they had a lot of freedom to rule in their way. Then the land surveys identified owners and taxpayers and graded land productivity to ensure a stable revenue base. So, what you see here is the picture of samurai, how they were dressed in this kind of an attire, and somewhat the European knights, they were there. And here I have shown you a comparison between the two, the samurai and the knights. Then cities, of course, the daimyo's capitals developed into big cities. Edo, that is Tokyo, Japan, most populated city in the world. Then two other large cities in Japan during the 17th century were Osaka and Kyoto. Then cities led to growth of commercial economy. So as cities grew, it created financial and credit systems also. Use of money and the creation of a stock market, a rice stock market, also helped in developing the economy. Then, at the same time, a very vibrant culture blossomed in these towns, and a class of merchants patronized theatre and arts. Reading at this time became very popular, and gifted writers got an opportunity to earn a living by writing. Printing was done with the help of wood blocks. So, this is what you can see. These are the various wood blocks, and on the right, you can see this block, and then it is dipped into some kind of ink and then printed on paper or silk. So, that is wood block, which is, of course, very, very popular. Then, the silk industry. Japan imported luxury goods like silk from China and textiles from India. This silk industry developed in Nishijin in Kyoto to reduce imports, because when they would import, they had to spend a lot of money. So they opened their own silk industry. Then weavers' guilds were established. Sericulture spread and was encouraged by an government order to increase sericulture was sent out in 1713. Silk production helped the growth of a class of regional entrepreneurs. Study of ancient Japanese literature led the people to question the degree of Chinese influence. The tale of Genji and in the myths of origin said that the islands were created by the gods and the emperor was the descendant of the sun goddess, and that's how the importance of the emperor increased manifold. Now, this is the famous tale of Genji, and it was a novel written by Murasaki Shikobu, and she was a female writer. Lady Murasaki lived during the Heian period, and this was an era remarkable for poetry, for diary writing, and fiction by court ladies. This tale of Genji became the central work in Japanese literature, and a fictionalized diary of the Heian court. It was written in the Japanese script. The novel depicts the romantic life of Prince Genji, and it shows the independence that even at that time had women had the choice to choose their husband and live their life. Now these are you can see the script, the Chinese script and the Japanese script, and you can see they look very similar. So the Japanese had borrowed their written script from the Chinese in the 6th century. So we can see the similarity. Now they developed two phonetic alphabets, and they were hiragana and katakana. Hiragana is considered feminine because it was used by many women writers in the Heian period, and Murasaki is one of them. So much for this session. We'll continue with the second part shortly. Thank you everyone and have a nice day.